From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Ali Siadatan is the founder of the Think Again Productions in Canada out of Toronto, a multimedia teaching ministry shedding light on mysteries and treasures of scriptural knowledge coming from the Lord to this generation. Knowledge which is making the Bible more real than ever, just when we thought it was all a myth. Evidence that keeps agreeing with the tales from the Bible, from biblical cities peering through the sand to alien abductions and prophetic events. The mysteries of the Bible have opened up our generations in a way no other could see it. In 2006, Think Again Productions released the groundbreaking documentary UFOs Angels Gods on Google Video. It received over 200,000 views in just 9 months. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Mr. Ali Siadatan, we appreciate you taking the time tonight, because I know it's late for you in Toronto. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me, Dave. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
Very much a pleasure to have you here, my fellow Canuck. And, you know, I have to say this. Are you a Leafs fan? Can we just get this out of the way right now? Because, I mean, you are in Toronto.
I am always, hoping that they're going to win. But, I'm bound to the Leafs, but then hoping for victory one of these days. Perhaps before, I am too old to see them do it.
Well, I am just going to forewarn you a little bit that if all of a sudden the word 67 comes out of my mouth a lot tonight, okay, being a West Coast here, my Canucks are still in the playoffs, and the dream of finally winning one, I don't think it's this year, but it's never any year. We're used to that type of scrutiny and that type of failure. But it's so much fun, man, watching every year. I mean, I can just imagine the dust that is on your parade lawn chairs on Yonge Street. I can just imagine the dust that's collected on there, man.
Yes, it's always, it's an anticlimactic thing every year. There's this hope it's going to happen, and then Bo doesn't again. So, we'll wait for next year. But Toronto is the best town in this country, and so it must have the best hockey team, and we're gonna do this.
Well, when are they getting a hockey team, though?
Well, it's a time of transition for everybody when it comes to sports these days.
Isn't that true? My friend, all kidding aside, 67, it's all about talking about UFOs, angels, and gods. Take us back in time when you became interested in this topic, if you don't mind.
I got interested in the mid-1990s. Someone opened my mind to the possibility that there may be a connection between this whole idea of UFOs and the, angelic sightings from the Bible. Such as the scroll of the prophet Ezekiel. And, that kind of got me interested in reading some of these ancient astronauts like von Däniken, Zacharias Sitchin, and things like that, and just pondering that perhaps there was this connection that, the UFO reality was the empirical evidence of the angelic dimension of the biblical text. But what really changed everything for me was when I took a trip to Iran in December of 1999, 2000, to see my dad, who's passed away since. It was kind of Christmas holiday, so I could take time off work. And when I went there, we were driving late at night in the desert, and we had a UFO sighting close up. And I couldn't believe how, I was seeing something so close, just a few hundred feet away. I could see details on it. I could see layers, levels and I could see green lights all around it. It had a green glow and was slowly coming down. And this tube came out of the ground and it went right into it and it went into the earth. It was kind of on an angle of descent. And that was shocking. I mean, that really was the way I felt in that moment. I just kind of sank in the car seat in a state of shock, thinking, what just happened? And so when I came back home here, I started to look on the internet, and I realized that, there was like the UFO Reporting Center, there are websites. People were talking about this, and now I could take it all seriously. And that's what really launched me into the research that led to the making of the documentary UFOs Angels and Gods.
When you had that sighting in Iran, what happened for you? How did that change you?
Well, it made this theory that the passages in the Bible that were speaking about the coming and going of angels from the heavens to the earth in these chariots, in these vehicles, that's the word in Hebrew for them, rekev, it means vehicle, it made those passages very real. And once you kind of add the angelic dimension to the biblical story and you kind of reclaim it from the world of mythology, and that becomes real, suddenly the entire story of that book comes to life as history. This is the true nature of reality then. We are living in the world that has been created by the communication, through God and angels communicating laws, like to the Hebrews, and then these other beings who are sovereign over the nations of the earth, and they communicated their laws. And this was the foundation of history, of civilization. And they have been with us, from the beginning. We have been always a part of their world because of who we are. And so it made this entire story extremely real. That was, I think, the most profound effect it had on my consciousness. Is it made the story real. It was like a key in a lock. Once this the reality of the UFO phenomenon was like a key that unlocked these biblical passages. And in turn, these passages shed light on the nature of the UFO phenomenon and revealed their true identity and plugged them into this narrative that you can follow. And really, the story of the Bible leads you all the way to the 21st century and beyond. And it all kind of adds up and becomes very real. And so your understanding of your own identity changes. You realize you really are the son of Adam, and you are in a cosmic tale that involves these beings and God in the midst of it all. And this is the word that has been left for the generations so that they know what is actually going on this planet. So it made all of this very real. That was, I think, the effect it had.
Now, I'm going to assume that, considering your Middle Eastern background, you grew up in a very religious type family with a strong connection to God and everything heavenly.
No, my family was very secular. It's true that the Middle East as a whole lives under a theological paradigm, like we live here under a secular paradigm. But my family was secular. When the Islamic Revolution happened in 1979 in Iran, we had just come back from LA. We were living in LA for about 9 months, me, my mother, and my sister. We came back to Iran. My parents got divorced. The revolution happened. And for the first 3 years, this was kind of the first 3 years of schooling, I was going to kind of Western private schools because I spoke English. And I had learned English in LA, and my grandfather was an English translator, and as a result of that, we always studied English at home. And then they closed these schools, and I had to go to public school. And when I went to public school, it had been Islamicized because the Islamic Revolution had happened in Iran. The education system was then Islamicized. And so now when you went to school, you had to learn Quranic studies. You had to study certain verses in the Quran, certain chapters. They're called surahs. You had to memorize specific surahs. You had to take religion courses once a week. You had to stand in the yard for mini sermons. You had to, learn the prayer that you had to do 5 times a day. You had to respect the month of fasting, Ramadan, things like that. And so suddenly, this was all very foreign to me. It was not part of the culture of my family. And so I was like, what's going on? What's all of this? And it was all in Arabic. And Arabic is a foreign language to Persians because Persians speak Persian, or that's the Greek word for Persian. In Persian, the word for it is Farsi, but the Greeks pronounce it Persian or Persia, and that's why in the West we use the Greek way of saying it, so we say Persian. And so you speak Farsi, and you don't speak Arabic. And so I was like, well, what do these things mean that I'm supposed to memorize? It sounds like incantations. I can't just memorize anything just because I'm supposed to. I need to know what it means. That was my thought. And so I came home and I asked my family, hey, what does this mean? And no one in my family did these prayers or read Arabic. And they said, well, we don't know. Ask your aunt. She was the only person in the family who had never gotten married. And in her generation in Iran, once you were past the age of marriage, which for a woman in those days was around 26 years old, you were kind of overlooked. And so you gradually became basically, an Islamic version of a nun. And so she had kind of been, found herself in that path. And she had joined a Sufi temple. This is basically Islamic mysticism. And they said, no, go to her. And she's basically the only person in the family that could help you. And so I went to her, and she didn't even know the Persian translation of these very important Quranic chapters, or even the words of the prayers that she was doing 5 times a day. She gave me these pieces of paper with the translation on it. And this opened my eyes that I was in a culture where a very significant portion of the society around me actually was only Muslim by culture, not by true faith or by understanding. Now, as I grew older and we left Iran and moved to France and then moved to Canada, I realized that this was the case all around the world, that in fact people all around the world, most people had no really deep understanding or clue of what was in these foundational, sacred, revealed texts that were at the heart of each civilization, that this was no longer part of the diet, the intellectual diet of any nation. And so, but in those days as a child, it was just I noted this. I was like, wow, so nobody actually knows what's in this book. Nobody knows what these things mean. So I memorized the Arabic because I had to for school. Then I memorized the Persian because I wanted to know what it was saying. And my religious teacher at school was very proud of me, and he would kind of take me around the school and say, hey, quote, say the Arabic. Okay, now say the Persian. And then what it did is it plunged me into a spiritual search at the same time. Now I was confronted with these ideas. Well, did God exist? If God existed, this is what he had said. These were the actual words of God. This is what is required of man. It kind of started me on a search, and it was getting intense because, yes, it was an Islamic revolution. Yes, there was a fervor in the country. Yes, you were going to school. Yes, they were saying these things. And suddenly I realized that, I had a tendency towards these things, towards faith. And so I was like, getting very involved and excited. And then we moved to France, and then everything changed because France was a deeply secular country.
Right. Right. So when you started looking into this, and now you start kind of growing, you're learning, the sides of religion biblically, you're trying to figure out, your own personal endeavors and paths on this planet, and then you throw in a UFO. It just can't get more confusing than that.
Well, yes, I see what you're saying. How can this UFO phenomenon fit in all of this? By the time I got to the UFO in 1996, I had already come a long way now from the story I was just telling you. I had gone through a very intense spiritual search by that time, had come to an understanding and a piece of where I stood in all of this. And then I was presented with this notion that there may be a connection. So the way that kind of it happened was when we think of UFOs, we basically bring a lot of preconceived notions to the table, first of all. And these preconceived notions begin at the Renaissance, where some European astronomers introduced the idea of the universe to us. They say, you know what, we're in the universe, and here's a telescope, like Galileo. Here's a telescope. You can look, and you'll see there's all these luminous stars, and you know, there's the moon, the sun, and the stars. And we're in this planet, etc. Oh, this is a planet. Okay, yeah, I see. And there's the universe. And then we've got the theory of evolution being introduced a few centuries later, and that kind of takes hold. And so then we go, okay, well, we evolved here, and so then the idea that there are other worlds and beings evolved elsewhere becomes, you know, fathomable finally. And then we enter into the industrial age, starting in England in the 19th century. And with the industrial age, gradually we come to a place after the atomic era where we start to, you know, with Sputnik, I guess this is the first satellite that the Soviet Union sent into space, open the imagination to this idea that you can go into the heavens. And so we start to develop gradually, layer by layer, these thoughts. Oh, we're in the universe. Okay, there's evolution here that might have been elsewhere. Oh, you can actually get out there because you can create technology that can propel you into this black part of things. And so with all of this in the back of our minds, we suddenly see these shiny, bright things flying around that nobody can deny. And then we kind of go, because the countless amounts of credible witnesses, including myself, and we kind of go, oh, well, of course, this is an alien, because we already have all of these ideas placed in our minds. However, before these ideas, the biblical perspective presents its own notion of reality. It says that there is the heavens and the earth, and the host of the heavens and the host of the earth. And the word heavens in the Bible incorporates the universe, incorporates where the stars and the sun and the moon lay. It incorporates all of this, including, and perhaps there may be more, you know, there may be more that we haven't discovered yet to this. There may be layers, there may be realms to this heavens. And then there may be a place that's very sacred in the heart of it, where you know God, the presence of God Himself exists, and so there's the heavens and the earth is where we are, and there's the host of the heavens and the host of the earth, and then it presents a series of characters to us. Now, this is where another mind trick or preconceived notion comes in. When you look at the culture and you say, well, where does the culture get its notion of biblical angels? Well, we get it from the paintings of Renaissance artists that were hired by the Vatican to paint the stories of the Bible for people who were illiterate, so that when they came to church, you know, the priest could point and say, you see, this is hell, and you see, this is heaven. And there'll be a demonic figure like torturing people, and then there'll be a painting of this, you know, little boy with wings, and they were called cherubs, and so we have this kind of, you know, this is where the culture gets its notion from, and then there's also this, starting with the rise of materialism with David Hume, the British philosopher. And the notion of atheism, which are kind of pillars of a thinking system called secularism, which is formed of a few ideas glued together. But essentially, it kind of says you can only believe what you can see. And so the people in the West that already have some sort of a Christian mindedness to their thinking, they kind of focus on the spiritual realm as a response to the rise of materialism. They place their faith in an unseen realm, and so the angels become characters of that realm in their thinking. And then when they want to think about it more concretely, they think through the paintings of the Renaissance painters. And so suddenly, in the mind of Westerners, having been educated on one hand with this notion of the universe and of evolution, of aliens, and of technology on one hand, and this notion of paintings from the Renaissance in a ghostly realm, it all seems very distant and separate from each other. One is a very distinct idea. Like, do you believe in UFOs or do you believe in angels? Do you believe in, they don't communicate, but it's only because of the preconceived notions of reality that we are bringing to the table. So if you kind of erase those notions and go back, like Descartes, the French philosopher, said, tabula rasa, you go back to the beginning and you remove all these ideas and you say, okay, let's build our notions of reality from scratch. So we're going to read the Bible. Hey, we're actually going to open this book and we're going to read the passages that talk about these vehicles, and we're going to look at the words used. Like, what is the Hebrew word used? Rekev. What does that mean? It means vehicle. Why was it translated as chariot? Because until recently, there was no other vehicle but a chariot. So it was redundant. But the word actually means something that carries you. That's the root of it. Another one is Merkeva. Same thing. The chariots of God. Elijah is taken up in one. Oh, so if humans want to be taken up into these other realms, and then they have to go inside of these vehicles, there's characters that come from these other realms also come through these vehicles. And so it's like, okay, wait a second, I didn't realize the Bible actually talks about vehicles, but so do these other civilizations who have a notion of gods. Their gods have vehicles as well, like the Hindus. They talk about the vimanas of their gods, and the modern Hindu word for airplane is vimana. And so these chariots, like von Daniken's very famous book, The Chariots of the Gods. Well, yes. That's because there is this notion, and it's in the Bible. And okay. So wait a second. So this Renaissance painting thing is bogus. Okay, so let's throw that in the garbage. This idea of another realm, well, it doesn't mean that the spiritual is not physical. That's also bogus, because in the Bible, spiritual beings are very physical. Jesus is God himself come back from the dead. Yet he says, you have food for me to eat, give it to me, and touch my wounds. I am flesh and bone. He says, I am not a ghost. He makes a point of that, of saying that he's a physical being. So,
Ali, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because this is entering very important topics, and we got to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Ali Siadatan is our guest tonight. UFOs, Angels, Gods. How do they all tie together? We'll learn from our guest, Ali Siadatan, coming up after this on Spaced Out Radio.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know little brother is watching.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month, and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. For more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
We're taking Sunday nights out of this world on Spaced Out Radio. This is Michael W. Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go on an exciting journey into the unknown. I'm going to bring you some of the best interviews in the paranormal and supernatural to start your new week off on a freaky note. So tune in to Spaced Out Sundays with me, Michael W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Great to have each and every one of you with us tonight. I want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight we are talking with Ali Siadatan. We are talking UFOs, angels, and gods. What is the correlation between every single one of them? He has a great documentary. Came out way back in 2006 called UFOs, Angels, and Gods, but still very valuable for context today. Ali, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Dave.
I got to ask you, in regards to the biblical side of everything, I know a lot of religious people, and I'll tell you, I come from a very religious family, mainly with my cousins and everything. And this is a subject when it comes to UFOs that I cannot have that conversation with. It immediately gets into demons, and it immediately gets into false prophets. It immediately gets into everything. What is the fear from religious people about the fact that we may not be the only creation of God in the entire universe?
I think that the deep fear is to offend the notion of the sacred, and therefore to do what's wrong in the eyes of God. And so you feel that to be defensive and protective is the right thing to do. It's the righteous thing to do. It's kind of a young way of understanding things. In this world we live in, everyone has different areas of specialty. I mean, I know very little about most things. However, the events of my childhood propelled me into the deep study of all spiritual texts. I mean, whether it's the sacred writings of Hinduism or Islam or Christianity or Judaism, or Eastern Tibetan, the sutras, even books that are no longer even read, like the Avesta of the Zoroastrian, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Inuit, the Mesopotamian. This became kind of part of my path. And so from where I stand, I see that most people in the culture haven't really deeply looked into these things. They haven't had evolved thinking processes. And so their emotions are very youthful and fear-based or anger-based or passion-based, whether on either side of the argument. The person who's also very much against, the Bible or things like that will equally be very sensitive if something is brought to their attention that rubs them the wrong way. So people essentially have the capacity of having incredibly deep thoughts, and they have incredible brains, and they could be taught very profound things, but no one has come along to share and educate them. And so their thinking processes become based around raw emotions. And so when those raw emotions are triggered, in this case, it's this duty to stand up for the sacred. And the person, goes off and says, no, wait, I can't do this. But one thing I would point out to your cousins is that in the Bible, ironically, it is the passages that most clearly talk about these vehicles are passages that involve the angels of God, the ones that are kind of in the good books in that story, and God himself, actually. So actually, Elijah, for instance, who's a prophet of God, is taken up in a chariot of fire and horses of fire. He also has a point where he's with his assistant, Elisha, and he asks that God open the eyes of Elisha that he can see the chariots that are with them, are more and greater than the ones of the enemy. And so there's also these mentions of these vehicles with these prophets. And God himself, if God is beyond the notion of all laws, yet he has chosen to enter his creation and to build a story with these conscious beings, including us, and he is in the midst of them. And God can choose by choice. The rest of us have to do it because we don't have any other way. We can't flap our wings and fly or just close our eyes and find ourselves in outer space. We need one of, Elon Musk's rockets to get there. But God, on the other hand, he has a choice to do all of those things. Yet he has chosen to create a very complex reality and then to function through the laws and regulations that he's created for his creation. He's entered it, in addition to being also the one who inhabits eternity and who is beyond thought and notion. Yet he has also taken form and has entered sequence and process, or what we call time and space. And he is now with his creation. So in the Bible, the passages that talk about these vehicles actually involve the angels of God and God himself, like in the scroll of the prophet Ezekiel, where God appears to Ezekiel and to the captives of Israel in Mesopotamia by the river Chebar, where they're in an encampment held, captive by the Babylonians because their king refused to pay taxes to the emperor of the Middle East at that time, the king of Babylon. And so God comes in one of these chariots, in one of these Merkavahs. And also when the Israelites are taken out of Egypt, they follow such a thing, and the angel of the Lord is in it. And the book of Psalms, for instance, says that the angels of God and their chariots were present at Sinai when the law was given, the instructions of God were handed down. And this is mentioned in the book of Psalms, and it talks about the chariots being there, a great multitude of them, and yet it is associated with the machinery of the kingdom of heaven, not of these demons as you speak of. So you could bring to their attention that ironically, even Jesus ascends into one of these and is carried to the Ancient of Days. So because he's the son of King David, he's the physical manifestation of God. He's the human son of King David of Judea, of the tribe of Israel. He's kind of a human. God is also a spirit, and God is also the one who inhabits eternity. But in the Jesus character, he is human, and so he enters one of these things to ascend into the heaven of heavens. You can connect with God in your spirit, but if you want to connect with God in your body, you have to get into one of these things and go. And so Enoch leaves the earth with one, and the book of Enoch, which is a very important book, mentioned in the New Testament by Jude, quoted by Jude as scripture, studied by the early Christians who were all Jewish, and it's an important book, and always held as an important book inside of Judaism. And it is also one of the books that is in the Dead Sea Scrolls in Qumran. And the Dead Sea Scroll community was extremely important and extremely devout, very important community in the Judaism of ancient Israel. And the book of Enoch talks about Enoch also leaving the earth and going into one of these things and getting all kinds of revelations and seeing all kinds of things. And the book of Enoch definitely is understood by everyone to be that Enoch was one of the good guys. He was so righteous. He never died. He lived 365 days, which is the same as a year, 365 years, which is like the same, as an entire cycle of the earth. It's 365 days. He lived 365 years. And so it means that, it was a perfect life. And then he was taken up by God. So in the Bible, ironically, it is the passages that speak of God and his angels that involve these vehicles, right? And so first you could bring that to their attention. Now, as far as the second fear, which is, well, wait a second, are you saying God is an alien? Are you saying that the angels are aliens? Okay, so that's where, again, it's the training of our culture that subconsciously kicks in the mind. It just kicks in. Okay, so we have to just take a step back again. Think about it for a moment in this way. We are not in the universe. The universe is a concept. It's not a reality. It's a way of viewing reality created by a few European men. And they may be wrong. We may be, as God has claimed, in the heavens and on the earth. And that is defined in a different way, and the Bible defines what the heavens is. So when you say, okay, let's again not go with cultural notions. What is the heavens actually in the Bible? Well, in the Old Testament, the Hebrew word used is Shemaim. In the New Testament, the equivalent Greek word is Uranus, and they mean the same thing. What do they mean? Well, context determines the meaning. So it will say that the birds fly in the Shemaim. And so the English translator will say, well, okay, birds fly in the sky. Okay, so in this case, Shemaim means sky. And we'll translate it for you and I as sky. And that's true. And when you look at in other passages, the word Shemaim refers to the area where the sun and the moon exist. And so every time it talks about the sun and the moon being in the Shemaim, the English translator says, I'm not going to say sky because that's not the sky. Oh, I'm going to use the word heavens. So the person will put the word heavens. Oh, the sun and the moon are in the heavens. Okay, that's an older English word. And then the Bible talks about the stars, the bright shining lights at night we see, to also be in the Shemaim. So the area beyond the sun and the moon, where the stars are, that's also the Shemaim. Okay, so basically the Shemaim is anything a few inches off the earth, all the way into the depths of outer space. Okay, so that's the universe. That's what you and I call the universe. So the Bible actually talks about the universe, and it calls it the heavens. And it talks about the host of the heavens. Okay, so wait a second. So these people, these UFOs that we're seeing, they don't have to be aliens from this paradigm's point of view. They can actually be the host of the heavens. Okay, so that's another. So you have to kind of it triggers these ideas that we have of reality and the way we've separated everything. There's the scientific notion, then there's the biblical notion. No, wait. The biblical notion is mostly cultural, and the scientific notion is just man-made. It could change. In 20 years from now, we could be like, oh, well, actually, you know what? We're not in the universe. We're in the gigaverse. Oh, okay. Because we're just learning as we go, right? We don't know everything, right? So once you kind of say, okay, wait a second, what is the biblical notion? First of all, the biblical notion is that it talks about the universe and beyond. There's another thing called the heavens of the heavens mentioned in the Bible, which is where God himself exists, and his inner court, which is like the temple at the heart of time and space. So, but it does talk about the universe. It talks about these vehicles. Okay, so that's actually what the Bible talks about. And it says these guys are not aliens. They didn't evolve anyplace else. They are actually the created host of this magnificent thing called the heavens. Now, we don't have all the details, so we don't exactly know for 100% what is this thing that we're inside of. It's a bit of a mystery to us at this point in our story. So we don't want to nail it like, oh yeah, we got it. No, it's the heavens. It involves this black thing, works with all the stars, and it has these creatures in it. Now, where do they come from? Do they come from, in the Bible, I mean, do they come from another planet? Well, it doesn't say that. Do they come from, another realm? Well, that's closer to the biblical notion because it divides things into three heavens. There is the first heaven, which is where Earth is, which is us. We are in the first heaven. There's the second heaven, and that's where these other beings exist. And these beings, what are they? Well, they have a name. They are called Elohim, which is translated into English as gods. And they're also called the B'nai HaElohim, the sons of God. And Adam himself was the son of God. And so these beings now why do we call them angels in English? Well, because one of their functions, and they have many functions, they have dominions, they have rulership, they have principalities over nations, they are part of this incredible cosmic story, like conscious beings involved in the saga of life on every level. Yet one of the tasks that some of them are given sometimes is to bring messages, and therefore they have in a way been given the title messenger sometimes, and that title in the Greek is angelus. In the Old Testament Hebrew, it's malak, and someone who brings a message. That's why they're called the malakim. But in the New Testament, they're called angelus, like angel, which means messenger. But that is only one small function given to some of them. Somehow in the Christian European imagination that inherited this Jewish religion, that became the all-encompassing word for these beings. It suddenly became, this one function became the title of a category of being, and then we started to mythologize them in a non-biblical way. We created beings that were only of spirit. We created beings that had bird-like wings, like the cherubim did, like had big wings of, feather-like wings. And there's nowhere, not a single place anywhere in the biblical text where they have feather-like wings. Nowhere in the Bible does the term fallen angel exist, even once. There's not a single word anywhere in the entire Bible. The word fallen angel is a word of Christian culture. In the Bible, they're called the sons of God, and we are told that they presented themselves as gods to the nations. So that's where the root of idol worship and polytheism comes from. These beings set up shop over the various nations of the earth. They gave them laws. They gave them architectural principles to build these massive the centers of worship, the ziggurats of gold, the pyramids. The codes of civilization were handed down. They appointed kings and priests, and they ushered in urbanization from changing the clan society to become these societies of city dwellers centered around priest kings. Yet God chose one tribe out of the midst of all of this, and through them he spoke his instructions. He chose his king and his priests, because there is a story happening here that involves these beings, involves the creator of them all, and involves us. And our history is born of the interaction of all of these forces. And it's all going somewhere, and it all means something, and that's what's actually recorded in the Bible. So it really gives you a very clear understanding of the world we live in. Once you remove the veil from and bring these guys out from the back of the curtain and say, wait, so these beings were not mythological beings? These gods behind the nations were all real, and these are the very same UFOs that continue to exist with us. And yes, they created hybrids in the past, and yes, they create hybrids today. The giants of old, the Nephilim of the Bible, and the hybrids today. And yes, they gave perspectives into the human society as they do today. They even gave technology, and they continue to do that today. And yes, God himself has spoken into the human world. In fact, he has come down into it himself.
Right.
So suddenly all of this becomes very real. And the two notions, the UFOs, are become, in a way, the empirical evidence of this angelic reality. And yes, there's 1/3 that has kind of rebelled against God. And there's a story that the Bible tells involving these beings, these UFOs, and us, but they're not aliens. And yes, they are all angels. And yes, angels are more than just messengers. And no, they are not beings of spirit only. And no, they don't have bird-like wings. And yes, they travel in vehicles. And yes, this is how the Bible has always recorded the story. It's just the culture that has been confused between the scientific notion and the traditional Christian notion. It has confused the population that is so focused on its labor and on its industry that it doesn't really have time to search these matters. And so it doesn't really know and just kind of goes with the flow.
Ali, we got about 4 minutes here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Ali Siadatan is our guest tonight. So what you're saying is that the UFOs people are seeing up in the sky are actually angels flying around. So when it comes to the thought that we have life on other planets that has maybe advanced thousands of years beyond us and they are able to travel here with their technology, are you buying into that?
I think that's a huge assumption. Are there other worlds that God has created and they have a relationship with God, and God may say, you're going to go to Earth on a mission for me? That's possible. Are there dominions and realms like electromagnetic forces aligned that allow people to go into other realms, or does God bring people into the ultimate realm where He is? I don't know the design of the universe. I'm just saying we can't just take 20th century assumptions in sci-fi and just throw it out there and believe in it as the ultimate reality. We're just learning
understand that.
one step at a time. So that may be true. It may not be true. Once I see one of those worlds, I'll be able to give you a precise answer. Until now, all I can say is, okay, these things are real. They're here. I can see them. And they're also in the Bible. And that's all. These are the two realities I can vouch for. And I can see that this book gives an explanation as to their identity and what they're doing and how they're to be understood and divided. Okay, I can go with that. But beyond that, I'm learning as life is unfolding and the more information is coming in. So what you've asked is beyond the scope of what is known.
Okay, so I could, to play, lack of a better term, devil's advocate here for a second. I do want to ask in regards to, you say that we don't know if there's other civilizations. The way I look at it, I'm a believer in God. Okay, I think I'm a good God guy. And I also understand that science has pretty much proven that the universe is infinite. So if we both can agree that God is the Alpha and Omega out there, how can we be, and I'm going to use this word carefully, how can we be naive enough to say that we are the only citizens of this universe?
No, yeah, you're right. I mean, God loves creativity. Just look at the earth itself, how filled with life it is. Like from all the plants and the sea life it's just, we haven't even documented all the life that's on this planet. We haven't even gone to the bottom of the ocean yet. So obviously God loves creativity, and even in the Bible, when there are scenes of His court and the angels are numbered, they are in the hundreds of millions, even in the Bible. So it's a very rich place. I'm just saying I don't know how it's exactly organized yet. Are they like living around other solar systems like we are, or is this is God creating a more permanent habitation that is made of a different thing than just rocks? And these guys are already part of that. I don't exactly know. So it's like we're getting closer. Now what we're realizing is in this generation, we're getting a little bit more of less of a fairy tale-ish perspective of the biblical text. Finally, our generation, we're finally seeing this book the way it has always been. It's always been this real. These beings have been coming and going to the earth. They have bases. They're over the nations. 1/3 of them have rebelled. They filled the world with lies. God and His angels are also here. He sent His Son, His Spirit. It's all very real, but now we're seeing it in a more mature way than the way that our ancestors passed it down to us. They kind of had more of a fairy tale-ish perspective of this story. They got the basics right, but their view of it was a little bit youthful. Our generation, it seems that God, for some reason, has some. I mean, I think I know why, but He's removing the veil and He's saying, guys, I want you to see it for the way it has always been. This is the way it's always been. It always involved these vehicles. Right. You guys are creating them too now because you're my children, and that's what my children do. You too will come into the heavens, and you're already starting.
All right. Ali, I got to cut you off right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. A very interesting discussion. This is a discussion that can be heated in certain ways, but you know what? This is what we do here. This is why we have people like Ali on and others on to discuss their research, what they have found, and I am loving this tonight. I am very much loving this conversation with Ali Siadatan. UFOs, Angels, and Gods continues on Spaced Out Radio right after this.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Hi. This is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Hey, Space Travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Appreciate each and every one of you tuning us in. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. If you want to check out our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Valetudinarian. Valetudinarian is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight we are talking with Ali Siadatan, and we are talking about gods, UFOs, aliens. He's got a great documentary out. It's been out for a while called UFOs Angels Gods. And I highly suggest you check it on out because it is a good one. It very much is. Ali, I want to say thank you for joining us on the show. And right before the break, we were discussing the fact of whether or not, these vehicles that we're seeing in the sky, UFOs, unidentified aerial phenomena, whatever you want to call them, you believe they are some sort of transportation for the angelic rather than beings coming from other planets. And for a lot of people, especially those who are maybe agnostic or even atheist, would believe otherwise to that. Even the religious would believe otherwise to that.
Yeah. So the religious have a notion of angels that may not be exactly biblical. If they studied the biblical text, they would see these vehicles mentioned by word in them. They're called that. I'll give you an example. For instance, there is a prophet, and he wrote a scroll. His name was Isaiah in Greek, Yeshayahu, and he wrote a scroll, the scroll of the prophet Isaiah. It is a phenomenal piece of writing. It's prophetic poetry at its best. There was a copy of it found in the Dead Sea, in the Qumran caves, and that copy, which is now the oldest Hebrew copy, which is about 300 years before Christ, that's when it was written and put in those caves, matches exactly the one that is in our English Bible. And so it kind of, it's a very ancient text, and it's been around for a long time, and its words and prophecies come through in a very literal way. And it has this window into the end of this age and the ushering in of the next. And it says, "For behold, the Lord will come in fire and his chariots." The Lord will come in fire and his chariots like the whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. So the idea that God, this is, if you read this passage, which is the last chapter of Isaiah, it talks about what Christians call the second coming. This whole idea that how will Jesus actually return to the earth, and how will this angelic host be with him? Will they be sitting on horses like Pegasus? Will the sky open up and they just plop in, from another dimension? That's how it is. There's been all these notions, like, oh, God is in the clouds. Okay, well, we went in the clouds and God's not quite there in that way. Oh, okay, well, now he's in another spiritual realm and things open up and they fall. But in the actual Bible, the book where we're supposed to get these notions from, it says that he will come with his chariots, which is the Hebrew word in this case, merkeva, and in other places, rekev, which literally means a vehicle that carries you. I was talking to an Israeli friend of mine last month because I was doing a thing on Zoom where I was talking about these things, and I said, "Oh, by the way, you know what's the difference between rekev and merkeva for you?" He said, "Well, rekev is like a vehicle that carries you. But if I came into my garage and I saw all my cars, I would say my merkeva." And so I was like, okay, so it's clearly talking about vehicles. And so this is actually the biblical text talks about these things, and it says that the Lord will come in them, and we see the angels coming in them. So first of all, I would say to the religious that their notion is not biblical. So they should, if they have faith in these things, actually align their thinking and reform it by instructing themselves from the source of their worldview, which is the decrees of the Bible handed down by God and angels. Like in Sinai, it says that they when the law was given, when the instructions were given, the angels were there with God. There was a whole multitude of these beings with him. And it says, the chariots of God. It says the chariots of God, the Rekev Elohim, are thousands and thousands. My Lord is among them as at Sinai in holiness. It places God not only in the heavens, but in the midst of his chariots by the thousands, right? And so the Bible actually presents this notion of reality that is not the one that some of our religious friends have based on the tradition they have received from their European ancestors. And the Protestant faith and the Catholic faith both have roots in Gnosticism that overly spiritualizes the notion of reality. And that has informed their thinking about these things. And then they have kind of clothed it with the paintings of Renaissance artists, and they're happy just floating along with this notion. And they kind of look at their teachers and their graduates of the seminaries, for whom I have respect, of course, but they will say, "Oh, well, they don't say these things, so then I can confidently believe that I can remain in my fairy tale and everything is great." Yet, if you open the Word, it will then instruct you. And I think it's this generation that is receiving this revelation because of what is ahead of us. As we're going forward, this UFO phenomenon is going to have a louder heartbeat. It's going like the New York Times article that was recently out, and stuff that we are seeing even on CNN, and it's becoming more and more like this backhanded way of official voices saying it's real, and it has, because there's an agenda, because there's two sides. The other side, the 1/3. And so God hasn't left us in darkness so that we wouldn't be confused. He's explained to us what's going on. And it says that 1/3 of these guys have an ambition, and they have gathered around one who is very high up in the hierarchy of the cosmos, and he has a deep ambition. And his ambition is to be the number one principle of the creation and to be worshipped as such. That is his ambition. And so these guys have drawn the world into a battle. They have drawn us into that battle. They've made a suggestion to one of our ancestors, and that suggestion prompted them to act in a way that brought a certain judgment over the race. And we were handed into the hand of these guys, and they presented themselves as the gods of the nations. That's what the Bible says. But then God had a redemption plan to reclaim this race and to give back to it the place that God intended for it in the midst of the cosmos, which is the purpose of Adam was to be the priest of God and to bring God's instructions into the creation, into the world of angels, into these worlds that you speak of. And so this is kind of the redemption of Adam. The earth is the incubation chamber, the birthplace of the immortal children of God. But this is the story through which we were born. This struggle and this war is part of the birth pangs. And we are being instructed in the school of good and evil concerning many, many things that regard our eternal destiny. The earth is a spiritual place. So this is my answer to the religious. Read the text and change your opinion of the nature of the world of God and angels. When it comes to the secular, to the scientific, to the agnostic, I would say that many of the notions that inform their thinking is not founded in something that can truly be trusted other than the opinion of a few men here and there. And what are men? Well, men are people who, here's a story that actually comes from, the Japanese tradition, but I like it because it reveals something about reality that I think is precious. There's a man, and he says to his student, "Where are we?" And his student promptly responds, "We are in the temple." And the teacher says to him, "Well, where is the temple?" And the student says, "Well, it's in Tokyo." The master says to him, "Okay, that's fine. Where's Tokyo?" And the student says, "Well, it's in Japan." The master says, "Okay, where is Japan?" And the student says, "Well, Japan is in the world. His concepts are getting larger." "Well, where is the world?" The student thinks a little, pauses, and says, "I got it. I see where he's taking me. It's in the universe. The world is in the universe." So he thinks that's the right answer now. We're in the universe. It's a big answer, And the master says to him, "Okay, that's fine. And where is the universe?" And the student thinks for a moment, and he says, bewildered, "I don't know." And the master says to him, "Then you don't know where you are." And that is how little we know. All of these are just concepts. We don't even know where we are. So for us to hang our notion of the true nature of reality, for us to form the all-important paradigm of what is the true nature of reality, that we have to base our thinking on our notion of eternity, of life and death, of right and wrong, of love and spirituality and healing, all these precious, deep things that we want. For us to hang all of these notions on the mind of a few human beings who don't even know where they are, that somehow they went to school in the 19th century, in the 16th century, in the 17th century in Europe. I mean, how little did they understand about anything? Look how far we've come in our understanding of things from there. And somehow these guys decided for all of us, this is how it works, boys and girls. You're inside of this thing called the universe. Yes, well, here's a telescope. Oh, yes, by the way, yes, you evolved. Yes, this is how you came to be these complex beings. I know everything seems to work, but it's through a multitude of random chance. Don't worry about it. Oh, and by the way, the come of the 20th century, others expanded on their thinking and said, oh, and we can now confidently say that this process that occurred on the earth occurred even there in the universe. We have never been out there, but we're pretty confident that we've even explained the rest of the universe and the life that's in it. Oh, yes, they evolved elsewhere like we evolved here. Yes, they create technology. We've never seen them. We've never talked to them. We don't know anything about them, but we're happy with these ideas. Okay, it's insane for me to hang my thinking on the mind of such simple paradigms of thought born of such limited beings. The thinking of such limited beings. I mean, humans don't even know where they are. At least the Bible, it's a divinely revealed book. Its history adds up. Its archaeology points to real cities. And most important of all, its prophecies come true over and over again. Yet how many people are even familiar with these things to be able to actually come to a sound conclusion? And of course, the spirituality that's at the heart of it. And that's really what changed my life in my spiritual search, is when I studied all of these religions in search of God, in search of direct contact, not in search of religion, in search of direct contact with the Most High, that I wanted to know Him, consciousness to consciousness, spirit to spirit, face to face, something along those lines. Finally, one day, when I walked into this place where, I went to study martial arts, and the teacher was saying to me, oh yeah, we have spiritual studies. And I thought, okay, I'm a seeker, so I'll hang around, see what those are. And we talked about, Zen Buddhism and Hindu, and it was all really great. And I was like loving it. And we're doing energy and chi and this and that. And then one day I walked into the study, and he had a Bible in his hand. And I was like, okay, that's funny. That's a strange turn of events. And then he started to talk about it like it was actual real, like he believed in it. And I thought, oh no, he's one of those fundamentalist guys. That's like the worst kind. What? I couldn't believe it. Like my whole world was kind of collapsing. And I was about to basically get up and run for the exit. I mean, literally get up and run for the exit. That's how scared I was. And it's like, why? And then when I look back now, I think, where's that fear even coming from? I think it's all cultural training. And so I felt this hand, a literal hand. And I think that was an angel over my right shoulder. And I could see it with my inner eye, like this hand that was lit, like it had light. And then a thought went through me. And the thought said, he has taught you many things that you know are wise. Perhaps he has something to teach you in this regard as well that you are not aware of. And with that thought, a great sense of peace came over me. And I thought, that's true. I'll give it a chance. I am a seeker. Why am I so opposed to learning about this particular thing? And so I listened. And as I was listening, I realized, okay, I see. And then I went outside, and one of these people gave me these pamphlets that said, oh, if you believe that Jesus died for your sins and came back to life on the third day, you'll have eternal life. And this is called the gospel. And I was like, okay, so I see how this works. This is the formula. And if you kind of somehow believe in this, this is it. You're going to tap into this larger spiritual reality. This is how this one works. Okay, I understand meditation. I understand chakras. I understand energy work. I understand religions that require dutiful obedience to a set of rules and regulations, prayers and fastings, etc. And none of it has worked. And I'm full of passions that I can't, if God doesn't want me to have these passions, well, why would he give them to me? I have them. And so so I can't get to him by disciplining these passions. This I've never tried. And so I thought, okay, well, since this is now where my journey has brought me, I might as well try. And so one day I made a decision, and I kind of, excluded God from this decision in my own mind. I said to myself, okay, I'm going to try this one too. If it works, if I finally get that contact that I've been dying to have, that void is filled. I am aware of the presence of God, and whatever this void is inside of me is filled. Then I'll know this was true. And if it doesn't, then I'll just classify it as another quote-unquote religion, and I'll move on. And so with that decision, I said to myself, okay, I can believe that I haven't been able to obey the laws of God because I can't even live up to the laws of my own conscience. So I said the prayer wholeheartedly. I went along with the precepts of it. And then I went to bed. And in the days that followed, suddenly I was sitting down, and actually I was watching TV in the days of television, and the internet wasn't even invented. I sat down, and I had this thought come into my mind that had to do with spirituality, and then an answer came to it, and then I had an explosion of energy in around my stomach area, like, and then suddenly this energy, just my body filled with energy. And in that moment, I was suddenly aware of the presence of God, which I am to this day, in my mind and my spirit. And in the days that followed, this fire came over me. I mean, literal fire, like I was burning. And I was having visions. I was speaking in different languages. I was like, what's going on? I mean, you have to understand, I didn't come from any of these traditions. I was, as you said, Iran is an Islamic country. Jesus is the prophet who brought the Sharia to the Jews, the way that Muhammad brought the Sharia to the Muslims. That's what you're taught. And suddenly it's like, no, he's the divine God, the visible image of the invisible God, and this concept of atonement. And it's like, what's all this about? And what happens when you believe in all of this? I had no notion of these things. I mean, I attended a few studies. And I got a pamphlet on the corner of a street. And then I realized the central formula. So I'm supposed to somehow do this. And this is happening. So I went down to the center and I said, what's this? And they said, oh, that's the Holy Spirit. Like very like nonchalant, like, don't you know? I was like, okay, what's the Holy Spirit? I'm like, why is it burning? They said, well, it's because it's burning the impurities away. I was like, okay. And so that's when I really got interested in the Bible. That was the moment where I was like, wow, this actually works. And so this was in the summer of 1991. And so France introduced me to secularism and philosophy and taught me about critical thinking, that you have to weigh things before you conclude. And that was precious. And then when I came to Canada, I didn't realize, because I didn't understand the makeup of the Western world thinking systems, but I had entered the Protestant world when I entered Canada. I didn't understand that at that time. And so I came into contact with the kinds of people that still held high their belief in this Hebrew document, the Bible. Right. And so then it brought me into this spirituality, and I realized this really worked. And so then I started studying the Bible and to understand why did it work? What is the basis of this? And so I learned that basically the human body is actually one of the three temples. There are three temples. The first temple is the one in which God himself resides. Other than being everywhere and all of that, he also is somewhere. And that is the temple, the heart of time and space. It's, where Jesus ascended to and all of that. The temple that's not made of clay. And then there's a temple of clay, the one that twice was built and destroyed on the same day, the 9th of the month of Av in the Hebrew calendar, both by the Babylonians and the Romans. Two empires destroyed the temple on the same exact day. Was that a coincidence? I don't think so. And so that was the second temple. There was the one that's in the heavens. There's the one that was on the earth. And the third temple is the human body. And I know there's a whole idea of building a third temple in Jerusalem, but I'm not talking about that. I'm using those numbers, but I'm talking about something else. That these are the three temples. And the human body is also a place where God's consciousness, God's spirit, can live. However, what separates man from this potential is actually sin, because there's a legal thing. God is a king, and there are other beings in the creation of the universe, and there is a way things work. There's a notion of justice. There's a notion of wrong and right, and there's all kinds of values that we all understand and function through, even in our own families, that are real. And so if your kid comes tomorrow with a knife and just kind of like stabs your arm while you're sleeping, you're going to do something about it. Like things don't just work the way, and people can just do whatever they want. And so, I realized, okay, this is how it works. There's these notions. This has happened, and this is the atonement for it. Apparently, it doesn't explain why anywhere, but it says that blood, it has the life in it, and that if one that is without blemish but is of the race of man can be sacrificed, then the whole race can be atoned in it. Why? I don't know. And so God comes to the earth, becomes his character, and when you accept that and this is removed, then your consciousness in the inner temple, in the human body, in the human mind, in the inner temple, your consciousness is allowed, the veil is removed, right, and your consciousness is allowed to enter into the presence of God. And that is
Ali,
why...
Ali, I'm going to have to cut you right there, because we are going to have to go to break here at the bottom of the hour here. Very much interesting information you were saying, though. Very much interesting information, and I appreciate that. Ali Siadatan is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. UFOs, Angels, and Gods is what we're talking about tonight. The conversation continues on Spaced Out Radio right after this.
We're taking Sunday nights out of this world on Spaced Out Radio. This is Michael W. Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go on an exciting journey into the unknown. I'm going to bring you some of the best interviews in the paranormal and supernatural to start your new week off on a freaky note. So tune in to Spaced Out Sundays with me, Michael W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Good to have each and every one of you with us tonight. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight we are talking with Ali Siadatan. We are talking UFOs, angels, and gods as the conversation continues deeply. Now we're getting into the Nephilim. What do you think the Nephilim are? Are they an alien hybrid species? Are they an exotic human being? Or is it Bigfoot without hair, Ali?
I think it's the third one. You've changed my mind. There was something about the way you said it. No, I'm kidding you. So what I think the word that you used, Nephilim, is a Hebrew word. And it comes from the root word nephal, which means, the fallen ones. And it basically connotes something that is a mixture of heaven and earth, like, sky and earth, like the Titans of Greece. So it's a Hebrew word. Where does it come from? It comes from the first book of the Bible, the book of Genesis, which is the foundation of what is called the Torah, by the Jews, the books of Moses handed down at Sinai by these God and his angels who were there among their chariots. These instructions, and just for a moment, before I open this, I just want to quickly say one thing. When you take a bird's eye view of the human race, when you take a bird's eye view of history, what you see is, for hundreds of thousands of years, the idea is that people dwelled in caves and all that stuff. And suddenly civilization starts just a few thousand years ago, and then now we're landing on the moon, but that's now a contentious thing, so I'll just say Mars. We're headed towards Mars. And so how did we get there so fast? When you look at all the civilizations of mankind, of the human race, all of them, they attribute their genesis to the codes of knowledge handed down by the gods. And the Hebrew civilization is no exception. Moses goes on top of the mountain. He receives a huge piece of information that's there's no way Moses, this shepherd from Egypt, wrote this book. Just too complex. And that's the story of all civilizations. The closest one to us is Islam, where Muhammad, the Arabs have an oral culture. They don't have writing. They are flanked by two great empires, two ancient civilizations, the Greeks on one side, the Persians on the other. And suddenly this guy, Muhammad, he says, you know what? I'm receiving a communique. And out of his mouth, over the course of 30 years, comes a series of recitations, which that's what Quran means, recitations. After his death, the whole thing is put into writing. His followers memorize it, and it becomes the foundation stone of an entire civilization, the Islamic civilization, with its worldview, with its understanding of, God, with its understanding of how to live, how to treat others, how to understand, the difference between the world of the faithful and the world of the infidels, and then expands into both the Persian and Greek Empire, which is at this point the eastern half of the Roman Empire, and takes both of them and forms the Islamic civilization and the Islamic world, which exists to this day. That's a very close example to where we stand in history. But no matter how far back you go into history, whether you go to the birth of the Indian civilization, the Vedic texts, the Indus Valley civilization that was born of the Vedic texts, or the ancient Egyptians and Mesopotamians that attributed their bodies of knowledge to the scrolls handed down to them. So there are many different bodies of knowledge that were handed down that are specified, that these were the bodies of knowledge. Even kingship was one of them. The kings were anointed and appointed in order to administer the laws of the gods. In fact, the writing itself, when you look at the birth of writing, and you go, where did writing come from? Well, writing came from a city in the south of what is modern-day Iraq, what is called Mesopotamia. In the south of Mesopotamia, there was a town, and this town was called Uruk. And in Uruk, and the Bible calls it Erech, in Uruk, there was a temple to the Queen of Heaven, Inanna, that was her name, one of these beings, one of these UFOs, and she's had a very important career. She has reigned over many civilizations and continues to pronounce her influence in the Catholic tradition. And she's been with us for a long time, and she's mentioned in the book of Jeremiah as something that the Jews are worshiping that they shouldn't. So in the temple of Uruk, in the temple of Inanna, the Mesopotamians record that there was a scribe of Inanna, and they were taught the basis of writing. So what we see in Mesopotamian writing is that there was a lot of very basic writing, like counting merchandise, like 3 beer barrels, 4 bushels of wheat, that kind of a thing. But suddenly, out of the city of Uruk, we see that very elaborate system of symbols emerge in a very short amount of time, about 50 years. There are 700 of them. And that becomes the basis of human writing. That is the oldest evidence of human writing. It comes from this town, Uruk. But what the Mesopotamians tell us, the people that were there, that left a record of their own history for us, they say that the gods handed down writing so that their laws could be recorded. And their laws happen to be the matrix of civilization. You see, we don't live in a world that these guys are visiting. We live in the world they have decreed into being. God created life and then gave this life knowledge. And this knowledge came from 2 distinct centers, one from God himself through Israel, and then he entered the world, and that's another story, right? From the past. Not only are codes of civilization handed down that are the basis of all the nations, of all the civilizations, but also God apparently himself enters the world, and he teaches for basically 3 years, we're told, and then he's arrested, trialed as a common criminal in a small colony of the Roman Empire, executed, yet he becomes the most famous man in the world, and his teachings change the world. And as those writings enter the Roman world and are translated into Latin, they become the foundation of Western civilization until very recently, really until World War II. And so this is, we have to really take hold of this truth and understand our own history, that civilization was born of knowledge handed down by the gods, so to speak, which the Bible says, yes, there is only one God and the rest of them are his creatures. And then the fallen ones, well, they were over the nations and presented themselves as idols to them, these polytheistic traditions, and God chose a clan to serve the rest of the clans. And this is the story of Israel. And so this is kind of, why it's important to look at these texts. They're very foundational. So in one of these texts, there is the word Nephilim that you mentioned in the book of Genesis, handed down apparently on Sinai, which was a mountain in Arabia. And in this book, it says that the sons of God, who is an idiom for the fallen angels, they came to earth and they took human wives. And some of these women, I would say, entered into these relationships willingly because it was a promotion. It's like, I could hook up with one of these, princes that have come from the heavens, or I could hook up with just another guy. Okay, I'm going to go with this. And others, of course, they didn't want it, but these guys took them, and they had children with them. And this was a strategy. It wasn't just some odd, weird thing. It was part of a larger plan. They introduced 3 things into the human world. Of all the things they introduced into the human world, 3 were the most influential and are with us to this day. 1, they introduced their laws and their worldview, which competes with the biblical one. 2, they muddied the waters. 2, they introduced their bloodlines, which are with us to this day and continue to rule the world. The Rothschilds, all of these other, powerful lords that are outside of the system, they carry the bloodline. And 3, they gave the scepter of rule, choosing kings that focused their power and built their empires. And there are 7 empires singled out in the biblical text. And the last one is ahead of us. It's coming. It's rising. I think the center of it will be the West, and the symbol of the eagle stands high from Moscow to DC. The eagles of Rome will unite. And this is kind of where we're headed, the final empire. These guys introduced these things into the human world. Why their bloodline? Why did they introduce this? Well, it begins with the seed of the serpent mentioned in the book of Genesis. Early on in the Garden of Eden story, we have the seed of the serpent. It continues in the passage where the Nephilim happened, and they created this entire civilization of hybrids. I mean, they had capitals. Like you go and Google Mu, the land of Mu near China, Taiwan, Japan. These massive pyramids under the water that apparently are 10,000 BC. I mean, they're just chiseled to a T. They had capitals. They created this magnificent civilization. The most important capital must have been Atlantis. At least that's how the Greeks called it, because the hybrid that ruled there as king was Atlas. And so this was perhaps in the Atlantic Ocean. And I mean, you have to study marine archaeology to start to see some of these more ancient cities that were buried by the flood. And in fact, this was the purpose of the flood, to destroy the world that these fallen angels had created by having these offspring among us. And this story is recorded also as history by every civilization. The Greeks, they call them the Titans. The Hindus, the Chinese, the Egyptians, the Mesopotamians, they all have them. In Mesopotamia, they called them the Anunnaki. And it means essentially, we call them the hybrids. That's fine. But the most common term I found among all nations for them was the demigods. The demigods. And so there was the gods, which the Bible identifies as the fallen angels, and they do travel in these ships. They are the UFOs. And what we're seeing today with the massive rise of the UFO phenomenon is their attempt to reinvent themselves. In the ancient world, they presented themselves as gods to our ancestors. Today, they're presenting themselves as evolved aliens, come to rescue us from ourselves, from our atomic age, and to usher us into the new world to come, the age of Aquarius. However, this is the ruse, this is the deception. I think when the Lord returns with his angels, they will cast him as an invading alien force and rally the world against him. Because the prophecies of the Bible say that the world's going to go to war against God. And you think, well, that's crazy. I mean, the world rebelling against God, fine. But going to war against the second coming of God, you know, if the heavens open and God and his angels come, and everyone's like, wow, this was all for real. Well, you'd have to be crazy to go to war unless your mind has been altered, your perception has been altered, and you no longer see it for what it is, but you see it as an invading alien force. And these guys are already preparing to play good cop, bad cop. So the majority of the UFO phenomenon that we see here, if you look at, for instance, Kenneth Arnold in 1947, and where, you know, it started, well, the Cascade Mountains, what's part of the Cascade Mountains? Mount Shasta. And Mount Shasta has more satanic temples at its foot than any other place in the United States of America. It's a very important center of the occult. Was it a coincidence that it was over the Cascade Mountains that the seminal sighting was had, the one that, you know, started the UFO flap of the United States? And no. Even Roswell, New Mexico, if you kind of look up all of these places, they have significance in this occultish way of understanding these things. But this is the same old gods, the same old fallen angels that have been over the nations. And this is their last stand against the second coming of the Lord and their attempt to reinvent themselves in the sight of men in the scientific age that they have painstakingly over the centuries introduced into our thinking by pushing away the biblical view, the revealed view of the heavens and the earth. They have replaced it with the notion of the universe, the notion of aliens, the notion of Darwinism. And not that Darwin was like, you know, a Satan worshiper or anything, just they have championed these ideas like seeds in the wind that are blown into the human heart and mind and cultivated and favored. And humans who are born and live short lives and just are, swayed by their generation and by the thoughts of their culture. How else would we know the truth unless God had left the record, unless his spirit was still among us, enlightening our minds and telling us, wait, guys, how would I even know the things I'm telling you today? These thoughts are so profound, so large. How could I understand how all of history has come together, who these beings were behind the nations, how the foundation of the world was laid, where is it all going, and what is the stratagems that are founded and thought in the secret gates of hell, that these guys are presenting themselves as aliens in order to confuse us and to lead us into battle against the second coming, which they may also present as an alien invasion. How would I even know any of this? How would I know these thoughts? Well, these thoughts come from Scripture, and they come from the discernment given through the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit. And so this whole story of the bloodlines of the Nephilim being introduced,
right.
The first time it was introduced, the attempt was to corrupt the Messianic line so that the Redeemer couldn't be created. All the genes were mixed with their genes. Other than Noah, who was without blemish, it says Tamin in Hebrew, his family had not participated in this, connection, this genetic connection, and so the race that led to the Redeemer was continued through him. But as the story goes forward, we see that as God introduces his plans, the enemy puts obstacles on the way. So Abraham fights these tribes of giants. In fact, we have records from outside the Bible that people in the Middle East would hire these tribes and pay them as mercenaries in order to tilt the balance of power in their direction. That is what the Philistines did when they hired the family of Goliath, who was a descendant of these giants, we are told, these Nephilim in the Hebrew. Goliath had four brothers, and they were posing as champions. And in the ancient world, all the way from China to the Middle East, champions fought. There was no need for bloodshed and for all the men to go to war. If the champions would fight, and the gods would decide where the victory lay, based on which champion would win. And so they're like, we're going to take one of these giants and make it our champion. Surely we will win. And so these guys continue to then exist as the Israelites come out of Egypt and they come into this land. They meet them, and it produces an obstacle. They won't go in, right? And there's architecture that these guys have left behind that are with us. You can go to Jerusalem, you can go to the city of David today and see architecture from the Nephilim. It says that, or even the Israeli Archaeological Society has put it right there. It says this is from the inhabitants of this land who apparently were giants. This is pre-Israelite, architecture. Well, I was in Iran. I was visiting the ruins of Persepolis, and the ancient Persian capital, one of them. Persia had four ancient capitals. And I was there again with my dad, who was alive, and he was an architect. So we were walking, and he said to me, these pillars here, it's incredible. Even today, we would have difficulty building pillars like this. How did they do it back then? And I was like, yeah. So I turned around. There was a guy standing there. He was a villager from one of the surrounding villages, and it was his day off, and he had come with his family. And, I turned around to him, and I think, I have to confess, I think nearly mockingly, not really expecting an answer, I said to him, "Sir, how do you think these pillars were built?" And he kind of straightened his back, and he took my question very seriously, and he said, "Well, there are ancient cuneiform writings left, cuneiform tablets, and they say that amongst the Persians there lived champions, and these champions were giants, and they are the ones who built these things." And I was like, what? So it's part of the written and oral tradition of so many cultures, like the Maltese island of Malta. It has these giant stones, and again, their oral tradition says that they were giants. Or the great stone of Baalbek in Lebanon, which was used eventually as the foundation of the Temple of Zeus, but it was older than that. Where did it come from? Who could carry such a stone that even today we would have difficulty carrying? Well, there's a huge evidence for the reality of these giants, both in literature and in architecture, and in the Bible, yet the Bible identifies their true origin. Oh, these were the offspring of the fallen angels, and they were here to pose as an obstacle to the plans of God, and their bloodlines continue to be the ruling bloodlines of the world, and their judgment is yet to come. And this is covered in the parable of wheat and tares, where Jesus says that God planted his seed in the garden, and the devil came and planted his seed in the garden, and the two seeds grew together like wheat and tares. And tares look just like wheat. And we know when the angel said, should we go and pull the tares out? And he said, no, should you pull the tares out, you will pull the wheats out too. And so our genes are intertwined with these other genes that have been thrown into the genome. And that's why we need a resurrection body. That is the purpose of the resurrection body. There are 3 pillars to the fallen world in the Bible, the first 11 chapters. The first one is what happened in the Garden of Eden. The second is the commingling of these seeds that creates this genetic mutation. And the third is the casting out of the nations from the presence of God at the Tower of Babel. The Messiah reverses all 3. He redeems man from what happened in the garden. Where there was death, he brings life. He calls the nations back to himself, and that's why as the call of the Spirit goes out from Jerusalem, the nations let go of the worship of the gods, and the yoke of this falls from them, and they are called back into fellowship with the living God, and the age of monotheism is ushered into the world, you see. That's where we are now, the 2,000 years of monotheism. But there were thousands of years of polytheism before that, because this transformation occurred and the Messiah came. And the atonement happened and the Spirit was released, and this was how the nations were called back. And third, the resurrection body, which is yet to come, will reverse the genetic mutation that was introduced by these angels into the human world that gave birth to the hybrids throughout the ages. And so all of this is all pieces of a single story, you see. The giants, the spaceships, the gods, the angels, the Bible, our own history, who we really are, the children of Adam, and that's why we're in such a huge tale, Christianity, Jesus, all of these things are just pieces of a single tale, and that single tale is recorded in the book of books.
We've got about 1 minute to go here before we go to break at the top of the hour. Ali Siadatan is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Ali, where can people find your film? I know we got you for another 30 minutes here, but where can they find your film?
Please go to my website, thinkagainproductions.com. Sign up for the Stay Informed newsletter so you know what we're doing. Watch the documentary for free. Leave a donation. There's a donation button at the bottom if you wish. And sign up for the YouTube channel. If you click on the documentary, it will take you there. And our Facebook and Twitter handle is at UFOs Angels Gods, one word.
Perfect. And for people who need to check that out, I think there's going to be a lot of good messages in that film for them to check it on out as well. We have you for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio, Ali. And, you know, this show is going by so fast so far. And I can just imagine how quickly that next half hour is going to go. But we are talking UFOs, angels, and gods here on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Our guest, Ali Siadatan. What will we get into when we come back for hour number 3? Well, you'll have to find out by hanging on out with us, because that's what we do around here. Totally what we do. And, of course, we have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Dave as well to round out the show in the back half of hour 3. Stay tuned. More Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us in. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. All of our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Valetudinarian. Valetudinarian is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram @Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce our guest, Ali Siadatan. He has a great documentary out. It's called UFOs Angels and Gods. Yes, using pregnant pauses there for the sake of dramatics. Ali, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, we appreciate you coming on in, my friend.
All right. You're welcome.
So we've discussed so much about the biblical end of UFOs and aliens potentially being angels that are flying on craft because they don't have wings. And what's the role here, in your opinion, as you continue to follow the trend of ufology? What's your thoughts then on the whole aspect of the disclosure movement that is pushing very hard out there to try and bring some sort of answers to the public regarding extraterrestrials or these strange vehicles?
It's part of a plan. When you look at, for instance, the late 1940s, there was an astronomer, Professor George Valley. He was acting as a member of the Air Force Scientific Advisory Board. And in a top-secret report, he told the Pentagon his theories about the alien civilizations that might well be coming to Earth. He said, such a civilization might observe that on Earth we now have atomic bombs and are fast-developing rockets. In view of the past history of mankind, they should be alarmed. We should, therefore, expect at this time, above all, to behold such visitations. This was in 1949. And a few years later, in 1951, there's the movie that came out, The Day the Earth Stood Still. And it again had the same message that we're entered into this atomic age. We always use the weapons we make, and we can't be trusted to bring this warlike ways into the cosmic community. And this alien had come to make a point that he could just raise his finger and all technology ceased to exist on the Earth, to function on the Earth for a minute, just to show their power. And then he spoke a message, and the message was basically put away your warlike ways before you come in. How did such profound conclusions about the UFO phenomenon exist so early into it? In the late 40s, early 50s, the very beginning of this whole thing, how did such profound conclusions already exist? These were ideas being planted into the human mind. These were plants. These were agents of this world, of these beings. And they were planting ideas already made and formed into the mind of those who were thinking about all of this. And when you look at kind of the trajectory of the past, 70 years, you see that these ideas have actually grown to become the all-encompassing belief of the UFO movement, which is a worldwide, massive phenomenon. In China, UFO groups have millions of adherents. And so these ideas have grown like seeds to encompass. It doesn't matter what the facts say of the abduction phenomenon. It doesn't matter what the facts say of the history and the light. The Bible casts some things on the history that we've inherited from all of these writings from the nations. It seems that these ideas have become the religion of those who look to these UFOs as the saviors of the world. People have been groomed to see them that way, essentially. And what I'm suggesting is that this is the final act of deception of the fallen angels, to cast themselves as the saviors of the world and the coming Lord as the bad guy. So what this disclosure is about, because when you look at the history of ufology, as you mentioned, after the Condon Report in 1971, things kind of went underground with MUFON and all of that, but people kept seeing these things because you can't hide this. This is the age of it. And now what we're seeing is a second wave, reminiscent a little bit of the first 20 years of Project Blue Book's time, of the government and the media kind of suggesting very clearly, like the article that came out in the New York Times recently, these guys are real. Well, what does this do? It fans the flames of that belief that has been planted into the movement, that the saviors of the world have arrived. It fans the flames of that preconceived notion that was planted as a seed in the minds of people. That's what disclosure does, or this government-related disclosure. It fans the flames of that, and it makes people feel like, yeah, we're onto something. We know we're right. They're here to save us. And even the government is trying to get word out. Somebody got that article in New York Times. Somebody got that, Navy officer on the CNN. It's happening. And this is increasing, this echoing this belief that the saviors of the world are here. And as we're going forward, what is next? How is this going to unfold? Well, it's apparently there's going to be a final world leader, and he's going to do lying signs and wonders, and may fire come from the sky, and he's going to speak against the stars of heaven and cast them down, which is an idiom for angels in the Bible. So I think that we're going to come to a place where the final world leader is going to claim an alien connection. And that's where he's going to draw his authority and power. And the culture is being groomed to see them in a good light. And I remember talking to Stephen Greer, with Disclosure Project, and he was saying, they're going to give us these gifts. And like they're going to give us technology that will allow us to turn salt water into drinking water very cheap. When you talk to a lot of the people who get abducted, one of the themes that comes up is the environment. And I became aware of that in the mid-1990s, and I kind of said, okay, I'll watch to see if the environment actually becomes an important issue in the culture. And these guys said, to the abductees, there's going to be environmental disasters, but we'll help you through it. And I watched with my own eyes as the environment became more and more important until it became the chief political issue of the elections in the most powerful countries of the world. And that divides nations, divides society. And so even Christians had to get behind it. They call it the creation care. Adam was, a creation care guy. So it's like weird. The whole thing became a very important issue. I mean, that's what's behind Tesla and this whole idea that Tesla is going to, change the combustion system of the world. And all of this is an ideological, idea, drive behind Tesla. So these guys are really grooming the world, and that's what the disclosure is about, to present themselves as the saviors of the world, and to become more assertive, and like the days of old in Mesopotamia and elsewhere, where the chosen kings were also the priests of these beings, the leaders will become their mouthpieces, And eventually there is one, I think, may even, call upon them publicly. And that's why he'll be able to have this miraculous powers. And where is this all ultimately going beyond this, once the culture is accustomed and awakened and trusting and sees them? Well, I mean, Hollywood has played a role. As I said, the day the earth stood still had very deep conclusions about these beings so early on, and Hollywood has continued to have this grooming role. Well, it's going to prepare the world to stand against the second coming of Christ, I think. I think that is ultimately where it's going to take it, and I think the disclosure is part of the grooming of the human world to trust these guys and first to become aware of their reality. And when it comes from important sources we trust, like the New York Times, which is a newspaper of newspapers, meaning that journalists consulted for the news, well, that has weight over our culture. A lot of people, give credence to that publication. And so this kind of, sends a subtle message to the culture and prepares it for what is to come. And it involves, first of all, trusting and believing these beings. But I'm saying that's a deception.
Okay, so who's deceiving? Where are these beings coming from? Are they from the depths of hell, or are they from another world?
Their origins in that very precise, I don't know, but they are the fallen angels. They are the devils. They are the demons. But call them, whatever you will. Their Bible calls them the sons of God, and they are the guys who have been ruling the nations. It says that Satan is the prince of this world system, that he's behind it all, and these are the guys that the majority of the ones we're seeing are these guys that are with us. Now, the angels of the Lord also travel in these vehicles. However, these guys who are deceiving us are, what Christians would refer to as the fallen angels, and they are getting the world ready. It's an alternative, right? It's an alternative to God. They don't need the Messiah. We will save you. You don't need an internal body. Through science and genetics, we'll give you that. You don't need disease to be taken away from you. We'll help you. You don't have to worry. We'll deal with the environment. We will replace the notion of God, and we will create a world in our own image, and our hybrid offsprings will be among you. We'll sow them into you, and together we'll all become one new happy race, and we'll carry our revolution into the heavens and into the throne room of the one who created all of us if necessary. So this rebellion is attempting to suck us into it like the days before the flood, where the infiltration was massive, and that led to the end of that world. This will also find its end, but this time it will be the second coming and a different type of judgment, not by water, but by fire. So this is kind of where we're headed. You can't divide and separate these. This is our history. This is our reality. And so, yes, by who? By the fallen angels. They are the ones that are posing as aliens and deceiving this culture.
That's not too pleasant of an idea there, my friend. Not
it's a
too
war.
pleasant of an idea. A war with who?
It's a war.
Though? Is it a spiritual war, or is it a war that mankind is doomed to have?
Man is born into the world of God and angels because man is of the world of God and angels. Adam was made in the image of God. He is at the very top of the food chain. And these beings are also very high-end beings that are the central characters of this war. And they have drawn us into the war because basically Satan had it for his ambition, the role of Adam. And so he simply made a suggestion to Adam, and Adam, followed through that suggestion, and that kind of put him in a place of weakness. In fact, in a place of death. And that is what drew us into the war, and they were kind of given sovereignty over us. But then God had a redemption plan, and this is the UFO phenomenon is the evidence of the story that I'm telling you right now. And this redemption plan, it is a violent thing, like he's pulling us out, and they have their own ambitions, these guys. They have their own agenda, and this is the war, and we're caught in it because of who we are, what our destiny was, the decision that we made in response to the suggestion of the leader of these guys. And I mean, they travel in ships, they have minds, they talk telepathically. This is not a new thing. This is as old as the Garden of Eden. And this is our history. And that's why they're here now, because they've always been here. And so this is it. And is it spiritual? As I said, the physical is spiritual, and the spiritual is not necessarily not physical. That is a Gnostic notion that crept into biblical thinking and formed the Christian thinking of the Europeans, who then taught that to the colonists, who brought that idea into the New World. However, in the Bible, the physical is spiritual, like the resurrected Messiah, like the angel who sat in the tomb of Christ. We're to understand he sat on it. And so the angels that ate with Abraham, there's lots of physical angels in the Bible, and God himself as well. So the spiritual, yes, it's a spiritual war because it involves the world of God and angels, but it's also a physical world because the spiritual is physical. And yes, it is what this phenomenon is about, and that's why they suddenly appeared out of the blue in the second half of the 20th century to present themselves in a new light. Oh, we're not the gods of old. That phase is over. The fallen angels are like, we're not going to pose as idols to be worshipped anymore. We are going to pose as your friendly alien.
Okay, but Ali, and I apologize for cutting you off.
No, please do.
UFOs have been seen for millennia. And in fact, if you go back to a lot of the artifacts and antiquities of Egypt and look at the scripture and the drawings that they carved out of stone, there is pictures of aliens and UFOs in there that have been carved into the rock. So this isn't a new phenomena of the 20th century. It may have got heightened due to the fact that we now have media, but this is a phenomena that has been talked about for years. I mean, you go back to the 14th, 15th centuries, and this is where I get a little bit confused because there's stories of people looking up in the sky and seeing sailboats, like tall ship-type sailboats, dropping anchors on the ground. You know, you go back to, the 1800s, it was hot air balloons.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This story is as old as Eden. So the gods, the UFOs, who were the gods of the nations, the gods of the Egyptians, the gods of the Mesopotamians. So what the Bible says is that these beings that were called the gods by the Egyptians, these beings were actually the fallen angels, and I'm saying they always traveled in these vehicles, and that's why they were drawn by these guys. The 20th century notion of aliens and seeing that in the past, that is bringing this new modern secular thinking of the cosmos, of the universe, and seeing in the past. I'm saying, look, the Bible identifies the gods of Egypt, as since you pointed to them, as the fallen angels, and these guys had these spaceships back then as they do to this day. Like the one that I saw in Iran, there's the Prince of Persia in the Bible. These guys have been there for thousands of years. The angels have always used these ships, and they have posed as gods to the people of the ancient world. Like, for instance, it says, when in the famous Passover story, God says, when I come to Egypt, I'm going to judge the gods of Egypt. Who are these gods? Well, the ones that you say are depicted in these artifacts, because they always had these vehicles. You see, you just have to make a switch. Angels throughout the ages, from the Garden of Eden, from the days of Egypt and Mesopotamia and China and India and Greece and Rome, all the way to the 21st century, have been with us. They have always used these vehicles, and they have simply posed as gods to our ancestors, and now they're posing as aliens to us. But all the while, who they are is who the Bible says they are. You see? But their manifestation is one that involves these vehicles.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So
kind of.
Okay, so let's say when you talk about air balloons and all these guys, yes, we've always seen them, because it says, for instance, in Deuteronomy, it says, when the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, when he divided mankind, he fixed the borders of the people according to the number of the sons of God. So behind the nations were these creatures, these beings. And these beings, they travel in these spaceships, and they always have. And these are the ones the Bible calls the sons of God. And this is what the Christians call fallen angels. and they were behind the nations, and they were recorded by the Egyptians in their art, and they were the ones that received the law from them as well. The foundations of the world, as I was explaining, is born of the codes that these beings handed down to the nations over which they had sovereignty. But the verse continues, but the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob, his allotted heritage. So God then chose Jacob, and through them he gave his instructions. They built his temple. He chose his kings the way that these other beings chose their kings. These beings I'm talking about are the UFOs you see today. These beings the Bible is mentioning is the UFOs you see today. It's this divide in the mind that's hard to break because of the thickness of this programming, where we divide the world of angels and the world of aliens into two separate worlds. The Bible has always instructed us concerning the true nature of the reality and who these beings are that are recorded in these artifacts that you mentioned. These are the angels that were behind the nations, which were the fallen angels, and they continue to be behind the nations, and they continue to exercise an influence into the world, and their new face, their new mask, is to pose as aliens. But they weren't gods, and they are not aliens. This is the masks. They presented themselves as idols to their ancestors, and they're kind of presenting themselves as new objects to look up to, and they're deflecting our attention, and they're kind of presenting a secular view of the world to us, in which, they are our friendly cosmic brothers. They are the spiritually advanced beings come to usher and help us. Meanwhile, they are the beings that have been here since the Garden of Eden. They are the ones the Bible calls the sons of God. They are the ones that rebelled with Satan. Satan and these beings use these chariots, these vehicles. So do the angels of God, Gabriel and Raphael and Michael and all these guys. They use them too. And even God, it says God will return to the earth with his chariots. So this is the story of the Bible, is the story that you are describing. The one when you're pointing to these artifacts, when you're pointing to these ancient, civilizations, recording these beings, when you're talking about cave art, when you're recording aliens, and when you're talking about Europeans talking about these balloons, you are referencing what the Bible is also referencing. And it is the tale of these beings, the fallen angels and the angels of God, because now the veil is removed and we realize it has always involved technology. And that's why we are the sons of God and we have technology. What is technology? Technology is essentially a way of organizing nature, a way of organizing the created order according to a body of understanding. Even the donkey that the Lord rode was a technology. Even the body in which he breathed was a technology. The boat he sat on in Galilee was a technology. This whether it's a boat on the Sea of Galilee or whether it's a chariot in the heavens, what is the difference? And whether it travels in the ocean of space or in the oceans of earth, what is the difference? This is just semantics. And so this is the true nature of reality. These beings that are mentioned in this book are the ones you are referencing in the arts of the Egyptians. But this book casts them as the fallen angels or the gods of the nations, which is the proper term for them.
We've got about 10 seconds left with you tonight, and I want to say thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio. What a pleasure it is to have had you here tonight, Ali. And good luck with your research, good luck with your knowledge, and thank you for enlightening us tonight on the show.
It was a pleasure being here. I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and thank you for allowing me to just speak like this. It was nice for me as well. Thank you for letting me share and for listening.
Not a problem. Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day. Once again, a big thank you to Ali Siadatan for coming on in. UFOs, Angels, and Gods. More Spaced Out Radio continues after this.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know little brother is watching.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night, where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month, and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans! It's John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from vans to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby. And tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot Hot Sauce, available now at kajans.com.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show and on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Speaking of the news, oh, here it comes. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire, the back end of every show where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and even talking some UFOs. You know, this is getting more and more real on a daily basis. The Pentagon in Washington, D.C. has announced they are forming a new task force to investigate UFOs that have been observed by U.S. military craft. According to two defense officials, Deputy Secretary of Defense David Norquist will help oversee the task force, which is expected to be officially unveiled in the next few days, according to officials. Previous efforts to look into what the Pentagon dubs unidentified aerial phenomena were led by the U.S. Navy, as many of the documented encounters involved their aircraft. The Department of Defense did not immediately respond to any requests from the media. Members of Congress and Pentagon officials have long expressed concerns about the appearance of the unidentified craft that have flown over U.S. bases, posing a risk to military jets. There is no consensus on the origin, with some believing they may be drones potentially operated by earthly adversaries seeking to gain intelligence rather than extraterrestrials. The Senate Intelligence Committee voted in June to have the Pentagon and intelligence community provide a public analysis of the encounters following the official Pentagon release of 3 short videos showing U.S. aircraft encountering phenomena. We have these things flying over our military bases and places where we are conducting exercises, and we don't know what it is, and it isn't ours. So that's a legitimate question to ask, Chairman of the committee, Senator Marco Rubio said. Frankly, if it's something from outside the planet, that might actually be better than the fact that we've seen some sort of technological leap on behalf of the Chinese or the Russians or some other adversary. The video released by the Pentagon appeared to show unidentified flying objects rapidly moving while recorded by infrared cameras. 2 of the videos contained service members reacting in awe at how quickly these objects were moving. President Donald Trump in April called the footage a hell of a video and told Reuters he wonders if it's real. In May, CNN obtained hazard reports detailing encounters between U.S. Navy aircraft and unidentified aerial phenomena from the Navy Safety Center. The unknown aircraft appear to be small in size, approximately the size of a suitcase, and silver in color, one report describing an incident in March 26, 2014. The reports described the observed phenomena as unmanned aerial systems, or UAS, the Pentagon's official terminology for drone aircraft. The Navy videos were first released between December 2017 and March 2018 by the To the Stars Academy, and the Pentagon has previously studied recordings of aerial encounters with unknown objects as part of a since-shuttered classified program that was launched at the behest of former Senator Harry Reid of Nevada. That program was launched in 2007, ended in 2012, but we're learning that that is definitely a faux pas in this report because the project continues. Former head of the program, Lou Elizondo, said that he personally believes there is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone. The Clean Plate campaign is going on in China. Why? Because President Xi Jinping says the amount of food that is wasted in China is shocking and distressing. He added that China had to maintain a sense of crises about food scrutiny and security. It also comes after weeks of mass flooding across southern China, which left farms wrecked and ruined tons of produce. Chinese state news agency, the Global Times, sought to downplay what it called media hype that China was headed for a food crisis made worse by the coronavirus epidemic. State TV also criticized live streamers who filmed themselves eating large amounts of food. Following Mr. Xi's message, the Wuhan Catering Industry Association urged restaurants in the city to limit the number of dishes served to diners, implementing a system where groups must order one dish less than the number of diners. So, under this system, dubbed N1, a group of 10 people can only order 9 dishes, but it's likely the system will take time to get adjusting to in a country where it is seen as polite to order more than the amount of food needed. In a group setting, empty plates are sometimes seen as a sign of a bad host, signifying that an insufficient amount of food was ordered for guests. The N1 idea faced some criticism online, with some pointing out that it was too rigid. What if one person goes to a restaurant alone? How many dishes can he order? 0? Asked one person on a microblogging site Weibo. Others said that the most restaurant diners did not normally waste much food, pointing instead to the extravagant banquets thrown by officials. Chinese state agency CCTV also called out live streamers who typically film themselves eating large amounts of food. Known commonly as mukbang, such live streams are popular in many parts of Asia, including China. According to CCTV, some of these live streamers throw up afterwards as they are unable to digest the large amounts of foods they have consumed. It's not the first time China has launched an anti-food waste campaign. They did it in 2013 with Operation Empty Plate. Yeah, though that targeted extravagant feasts and receptions held by officials rather than putting the onus on the public. A pair of Ontario men out fishing in their boat. Well, they had one fishing story that, well, it's not even too good to be true. It is true. They ended up rescuing a moose that was struggling to keep its head above waters in Lake Superior. Steve Morin of Wawa says he and his friends spotted the moose swimming far from shore while they were out fishing nearby. I said, let's pull it up. Let's go take a look. We went down there, and he was swimming around in circles and dunking down every now and again. Morin, an experienced moose hunter and guide, said he decided to help the animal get back to shore. Normally, when you approach an animal like that, it will try to get away from you and avoid you, and it will go in a straight line towards land. So it just kept going around in circles. Then eventually it was going to drown. So I told my buddy, we've got to do something. I just said, pull up beside him. I'm going to try and get a hold of him. Morin told the moose about 1,000 feet to shore. It was still quite challenging because he's a big animal, about 600 to 700 pounds. And you know, it's kind of a struggle. You don't know what is going to happen. He's got the big antlers on him. He could use that as a weapon if he needs to, so you got to be careful. However, the moose must have known what was going on because it allowed them to tow the moose to shore. Benoit said the moose appeared to be suffering from health issues that likely affected his ability to navigate in water. Oh, yes, the American bald eagle causing a stir in Michigan, where state officials said a drone mapping shoreline erosion in the Upper Peninsula went a little watery after a brazen attack on its drone by a bald eagle. Yes, the Michigan Department of Environmental, Great Lakes, and Energy, or EAGLE itself, said the drone was being piloted by environmental quality analyst Hunter King along the Lake Michigan shore when it encountered the bird of prey. King said he was watching the video feed from the drone when it started spinning, like a really bad roller coaster ride. An analyst said he looked up at the sky and noticed the drone was gone, and a bald eagle was flying away from the scene. A couple of bird watchers nearby told King that they had seen the eagle knock the unmanned craft out of the air. Multiple searches of the area were unable to locate the fallen drone. Eagle said it will be replaced with a similar model. The department joked that the drone was sent into a watery grave in the brazen attack. Eagle said officials have contacted the Michigan Department of Natural Resources to see if it might issue a citation or violation notice to the rogue eagle. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do, a DNR spokesman said. Nature is a cruel and unforgiving mistress at times. A family boating out on Lake Michigan conducted an unusual rescue when they found a dog swimming 4 miles from shore. Jeannie Wilcox said she and her family were taking their boat on a 12-hour trip from Grand Haven to Frankfort, Michigan, and about 8 hours into the trip, they noticed something in the water. I see this red animal in the lake, and I started screaming, "Dog in the water!" Wilcox said the dog was about 4 miles from the nearest shore. We brought her up onto the swim platform really easily, dried her off. She was obviously scared and cold. Wilcox said her family made an unplanned stop in Belmont to have the dog scanned for a microchip. I just hope that if this was my dog, someone would do the same for me. I would just be very grateful, happy, because I know how rough Lake Michigan can be. The Wilcoxes, by the way, were then able to contact the dog's owners and arrange a reunion. Well, that's good. This Pennsylvanian cat, well, it's a thief, man. It's a thief, and they've had to put cameras all over the area because, well, this cat has a fetish for petty crimes. Yeah, B.J. Ross of Altoona, Pennsylvania, created a Facebook group to address one of her pet cat Jordan's habits: stealing other people's shoes. Yeah, the 6-pound black and white kitty nightly routine consists of going out, nabbing someone's shoes from the neighbors, and then returning home with the stolen goods. So she amassed a sizable collection of filched footwear. Ross, however, hopes to get the shoes back to their respective feet with the help of her Facebook group, in which she posts images of the stolen shoes for neighbors and community members to claim. The social media forum now has almost 3,000 members keeping an eye on Jordan's burglary activity, that is. If y'all know my cat Jordan, y'all know she loves to bring me home shoes, wrote Ross in the Facebook group, titled Jordan. Yes, you read it right. This tiny little cat drags me home 1, 2, 3 shoes every night. Last year, Ross continued, he brought me dead mice, live snakes, dead and live birds, garbage, including an empty chip bag and a rubber glove. This past January, I started noticing shoes would show up in my yard. I thought nothing of it and would throw them away. As this progressed over the months, my mom suggested I keep the shoes to find the owners. Ross explained that she has placed a tracking device on Jordan to track the pet's nighttime routes, documenting the cat's journey from house to house on the hunt for unattended flip-flops, high tops, and sneakers. Well, 37 shoes later, I still have no idea where he gets them. I put a GPS tracker in him last night and thought he deserves his own group. Thanks for following Jordan. You know what? How about keeping the cat inside at night? What is wrong with keeping the cat inside? If you know your cat is a thief, all right? If you know it's going to burglarize someone's shoes, your cat has a foot fetish, by the way. Keep the cat inside. It doesn't need to go outside at night. Doesn't. That's how cats end up pregnant if they're not fixed. That's how cats end up as coyote food, raccoon food, whatever kind of food. That's how they end up dead on the road. I don't know. But no, this cat's going to get love. Why? Bring the cat inside. No more shoe thieves. You know what? This is her 15 minutes of fame. This is why she's doing this. It's only obvious. And we got to put up with it. Speaking of animals, a peaceful day on a German beach turned into chaos when a wild boar swam out of the Baltic Sea and then ran loose through the crowds of sunbathers. There's a video out there shared by the Seabad Warramunde Resort on Facebook that shows the boar coming out of the sea at the crowded beach of Schöningen. Yeah, I'm not up on my German very well, so I'm not going to pronounce the next part of it. Anyways, the footage shows a man's attempt to ward the wild pig away from crowds. Obviously, he's never been around a wild boar. They don't like that. Yeah, oh, by the way, he was trying to do it with a shovel. Yeah, that's going to piss the thing off more. But the undeterred boar ran through the beach, sending sunbathers running for safety. Witnesses said the boar eventually ran off down the coast. The boar is believed to be the same animal earlier spotted swimming miles away off the coast of Lower Saxony. Sailor Klaus Schluter said he and his colleagues were unable to guide the boar out of the water, and it was seen last swimming towards the shore. Well, probably is the same boar. And then Shovel Guy here, he's going to act tough in front of everybody. All right? Almost gets his butt kicked by this thing. I mean, have you seen a boar's teeth? They're like 3-4 inches long. They're almost as long as like a tiger's. All right? It could have been seriously hurt or mauled. But he had a shovel, which, by the way, in the video, you can see that he's actually holding the shoveling end of the shovel away from the boar. Yeah, this guy, he's got the smarts. Yeah, I'm not even going to say it. I could be really rude. And finally, oh yeah, another dumb Guinness Book of World Records here. Thank you, Captain Shirk. This is where Shirky Poo really kicks in here. A Minnesota woman, she has an unusual talent, and thanks to that unusual talent, she now has her name in Guinness. She spelled 56 words backwards in 1 minute. Yeah, that's something to be proud of. Pal Onan of Hastings said she wanted to attempt the record to put her town on the map. Guinness shared the video of Onan quickly spelling 56 backwards words from a randomized list in the 1 minute time limit. The video also featured Onan showing off one of her other talents, pronouncing words backwards. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? We needed this in this world. All sorts of positivity here. She's going to get things done. Bet you she runs for political office now. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages. Then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. What are your thoughts on biblical scripture saying aliens and demons are demons from the sky? I don't know if I would want to be in the Guinness Book of World Records for something useless. You know, it's different. Like if you're like playing in a band where, say, like 3,000 guitarists all come together on a football field to play the national anthem or something like that, that's kind of cool. And I'm not just saying that because that's up my alley. But some of these Guinness World Records, people have too much time on their hands. Still upset about that. And you know that the goofball Daniel Thorson, he'll probably be like, well, what Guinness record happened today? What happened today? Did I miss anything? Yeah, that's the guy. Remember him? That's the guy who came out a couple of months ago when he was in the Buddhist temple for 75 days, entered when COVID was on, and then came out when COVID was on, but couldn't remember, and said, wow, the world has changed so much in 75 days. Like, what is this COVID? Did I miss anything? Yeah, that moron. Anyways, we'll call that a Thorson. How about that? Marty is saying, as far as I know, the Bible never mentions aliens in the sense of beings from other worlds. It does mention demons, but the ancients and some modern religious consider any non-human person as demonic. And thank you for the demonic-looking cloud tonight, Marty, on Twitter. We love you. He's one of our favorite veterans who listen to this show, and we love every veteran who serves and listens to this show. Thank you so much for your time and your service. Canadian Joe, we have to take into account that this is an ancient man's account of what he saw or may have seen. This is the description of what he believed to be true in describing UFOs. Where exactly does it say in the Bible that aliens are demons, man? John, Bible covers 7,000 years. Modern humans, over 100,000. Homo sapiens, over 600,000. So books written about 7% of this movie and only minus 1% of the whole series may not be the best source for who or what anything is. Nathan, it's aliens. Always aliens. Juan, Through centuries of translations, it's hard to determine what the authors really said. Thou shalt not kill was originally thou shalt not murder. That being said, who's to say demons didn't show up as aliens? Showing up as a demon would be what religions predicted. Quantes, this may or may not be what you're looking for, but Ezekiel 1:128. Yes, iconoclast. Scripture says that only 1/3 of the host of heavens has mounted a rebellion. Both the good and the fallen angels use the biblical chariots, so the UFO phenomena is the evidence of the angelic reality as a whole. Even the angels of God use these vehicles. Well, there we go. That's what our guest was saying tonight. Let's move on, shall we? All right. Tim. Well, he calls it bologna sausage. Alex, makes sense to think this way 2,000 years ago, but people pushing this in 2020 are morons. Enough is enough. Debbie, I guess a demon was visiting during this, and many other pics that got UFOs in. I also believe God is an alien. Oh, well, that's nice. Wayne calls it bovine excrement. Nikki, funny that 2 days ago I had a conversation with a spirit about this very subject, where the aliens weren't called or considered demons in the spirit world, but hidden in various ways in the language of the Bible. Interesting. Nicole, wrong, incomplete, skewed, gotta go back further than the Bible or Torah or Quran, and further back than Greek translations. Vicky, never read that. What scripture, please? Chris, well, technically God is not from this earth as stated in scriptures. Therefore, the portrayal of angels and demons are not as well as if they are from space, other dimensions, and so forth, that it is up to each to decide. Cable guy Matt, how else would they describe them? I'm sure you still have a lot of religious people that would try saying the same thing today. Brian, quote those lines of scripture, please. Oh, so now we have a bunch of biblical prophets because I accidentally screwed up on my question. Yeah, that's the way it goes. Best answer tonight? Elizabeth Anglin. Nope. Thank you for everybody participating in the Thought of the Day. We will do it all again tomorrow. So make sure you join us on Twitter and Facebook. Get yours on there. Thank you to Ali Siadatan for coming on in the show, and Captain Shirk for all the great news on the SOR Newswire on our website. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Yes, we absolutely love you joining us tonight. Thank you to everybody in our chat rooms on Spreaker, YouTube, LGAB, Rev Radio, Facebook, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train is docked for the night again, but tomorrow we shall ride once more. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, guess what? We have room for them too. Have a great night. Good night.